All right, everyone. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Finding Balance During COVID-19. My name is Julia Marvin, and I'll be your moderator today. I work on the marketing team here at Jefferson Center, and I'm excited that we're hosting this session today. First off, I want to take a moment to thank our webinar sponsor, the Rotary Club of Golden. Thank you so much for sponsoring this webinar and for your continued support and commitment to the mental health in our community. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Angela Quinn. Angela is a licensed professional clinician here at Jefferson Center and has been practicing for over 10 years. Today, she's going to share some tips and tricks on how to balance all of the elements in your life and manage expectations during a public health crisis like the one we're currently experiencing. Before I hand the mic over to Angela, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. First, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session, and we'll go ahead and email that out to you. We'll also have today's slide deck available, and I would encourage you to visit our website at www.jcmh.org, where we have more resources available, along with blog posts related to this topic and more information about other upcoming webinars we'll be hosting. Next, please keep your microphones muted and turn off your video during the presentation. And you'll also want to change your Zoom view to speaker mode to see the presentation. And then finally, we'd love to hear from you during the presentation. If you have a question for Angela, please feel free to send it through the chat at the bottom of the Zoom player. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. And if we don't get to your question today, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. And last, we'd like to encourage you to follow on our social networks and share the recording of this webinar and other information about Jefferson Center. So without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Angela Quinn. Angela, over to you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Hi, everyone. So to start off with, I typically like to tell everybody there's no need to adjust your speakers. This Southern accent is not going to go away no matter what you do to your speakers. I apologize for that. Please, if there's any words that I use or say in a strange way that you can't understand, please let us know and we'll certainly translate that for you, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get into this. How do we find balance during COVID-19? It's been a complete change and I think just chaos for everyone to sort of scramble and figure out, how do we find balance? You can go to the next slide now. Okay. So before we begin and I start to sort of give you tips and tricks on how to find this balance, I want you to be very realistic with yourself about your expectations. Don't expect for every one of these things to work that I'm going to suggest to work perfect for you. You're going to have to bend them and mold them to meet the needs of your family. Okay, so keep that in mind. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is an analogy that I heard the other day about COVID and balancing your life during COVID. The analogy was, imagine it's almost like standing on one leg. So if you stand on one leg and you put all of your body weight on that one leg, your muscles are going to have to adjust, your bones are going to adjust, and it'll be difficult. It's hard to stand on one leg when you're putting all your weight on that leg. So if your leg became a little weak, you wouldn't criticize yourself for not being able to hold that leg up stronger because you recognize you're putting all of your weight on that one leg. Sort of similar when it comes to balancing your life when it comes to COVID. You have to be willing to make minor adjustments, but understand that at the end of the day, all you can do is the best that you can do. You try your best, and that's all you can do. So I just really want to be realistic about our expectations of coming through all of this and just being sort of having too many expectations of being the perfect mother or the perfect worker. During this time, I'm not sure that that's going to be possible in every area of your life, okay? Next slide. However, although we may not be able to accomplish perfection, we definitely can take care of ourselves. And that's really the basic needs, where the basic needs start. Simple things like eating healthy meals, particularly at the same time every day that you were eating those meals before COVID, if possible. Making your schedule sort of the same. Limiting things like sugars and lots of carbohydrates. This is a nice time to sort of sit around and eat chips, but you also want to be careful about that because that can contribute to other problems. You also want to limit your caffeine, as that can increase like more stress and anxiety. So watch that. Sleeping. Sleeping is a basic need that all of us absolutely need. You want to try to get as much normal sleep as possible. What I mean by that is if you were going to bed before at 9 p.m. at night, it would be a good idea for you to continue to go to bed at 9 p.m. at night and keep your sleep schedule the same so that you don't mess that up. And mainly to ensure that you're getting enough sleep, okay? Hygiene. Some people say, well, I'm clean. Yeah, you're clean, but it's easy whenever you're sort of laying around being that couch potato to not take as good a care of yourself. Maybe it's harder to remember to take a bath every day. Maybe it's harder to remember to brush your teeth if you're not in that normal routine of going to work every day. So you just want to watch that, be mindful of that. Not to mention, one of the ways, basic needs of taking care of yourself is prevention of COVID. So, washing your hands a lot, taking vitamins, ensuring that you are healthy and you are preventing yourself from getting sick. Okay? Another basic need is sort of just avoiding alcohol, drugs, marijuana, tobacco. I know that all of that can sort of be some people's number one go-to whenever stress hits. So, but I want you to keep in mind that if you smoke tobacco, if you vape, that's putting you at higher risk for COVID, which is definitely not good. As well as, anytime that you use alcohol or drugs to sort of cope with the things that you can't deal with or you can't maybe change going on in your life, it never ends up good. So let's be really mindful of that and really try to avoid those things. Next slide. Exercising. Exercising is one of the biggest things that I think we can do right now to balance our life. Participating in regular physical activity, daily, going on daily walks, or even doing daily exercises. There's apps that you can use that show you getting you moving, dancing. There's also exercise apps that you can use. And I've, at the end of these slides, I've actually given you some websites to go to find some of the best ones. Also, I encourage you to do these exercise challenges with your friends. They have challenges on some apps where you do so many sit-ups in the next 5 minutes. So you could call a friend and say, hey, let's do this daily exercise real quick, and then I'll call you back and talk to you, and we'll chat about it. So you can do this with other people. The next thing, and which is also very important to your basic needs, I believe, is getting outside and being around nature. We've seen so many studies that show us that nature is good for our overall well-being. So I think that getting outside as much as possible, sort of getting some of that sunlight, even if it's sitting outside in your backyard, still getting outside is a great thing. Trying to be mindful and really paying attention to what's surrounding you. What are the sounds? What are the feelings or the smells that you smell? Really being mindful when being outside. Next slide. So another thing, this is sort of the number one thing that people say, is keep a regular schedule. It's very beneficial when it comes to balancing everything. I am a mom, and I say good luck with that. Keeping a regular schedule pre-COVID versus now post-COVID, my schedule is completely different. So what I say is keep that schedule as routine as you possibly can, but there are definitely going to be things that you need to change in that schedule. So for example, maybe the time that you wake up now has changed versus then, but you want to try to now versus before COVID. So you want to try your best to just keep it on the same time. But if you can't keep it exactly at the same time, just as close as possible. Once again, trying to make sure you get enough hours of sleep. Also, when it comes to scheduling things like lunch or school time versus your work time, sometimes that can be beneficial. Your time of day may change that you do schoolwork with your child versus the time of day that I do. And that's okay, as long as we both have it scheduled within our day. So really trying to keep some type of schedule for the whole family can be very beneficial. When I look at this example on the slide, I think more of maybe someone who does not have children, especially when it says, stretching and things like that. But I want to encourage the parents too, that even though you may think, I don't have time for self-care right now, or I don't have time to worry about myself. I have to worry about everything else. I understand that, but that is not what's best in the long run. Really be mindful of scheduling time to try to take care of yourself, even if it means locking the bathroom door and giving yourself an hour of time in a hot bath. Do something to take care of yourself. That's really going to help with burnout with all of this as well. Next slide. Okay, these are more of like the things that I've found that just seem to be very helpful. Sharing successes, share tips with coworkers or friends on what's working for you. I think everybody is looking for the same answer, and that's how do we cope with this? And the truth is everybody is doing the best they can, and we're learning as we're going. So let's share that with everybody. And you want to encourage your friends to do the same thing. Say, hey, if you figure out a better way to do your fifth grader schoolwork, please let me know, so that then, I can do it the same way. Also, I think doing Google Hangout is something that a lot of people are doing now, sort of to maybe even have meetings outside of work, just more of a social event, maybe even get together with friends. Just really, trying to talk about positive things, because we have so many negative things going on right now, and we have so much negative news out there that you want to really try to surround yourself with positive feedback from others. Another thing, something as simple as sharing photos with each other, maybe your coworkers, maybe just family members or friends, but funny pictures even of how your kids are handling this new COVID, the everything that's changed due to COVID. Maybe cute pictures of babies or animals or children, anything that sort of is uplifting. I know a lot of us through JCMH have been sending each other funny memes. That's really been helpful, even if it's for a moment, to uplift someone's day and make them smile. And that sort of brings me to the next one, which is distraction. You really want to try to provide distraction for yourself as well as your children. Like I said, there's a lot of negativity out there and a lot of scary things that are being said on the news and just in society in general. So you really want to be mindful to try to engage in activities that benefit your well-being overall. Things that bring joy to you, bring distraction from all of the things that are going on. So I have some suggestions, but I could go on and on. I mean, the suggestions are sort of endless, but just to give you a few: yoga, journaling, reading, art projects, cooking with new recipes, doing breathing exercises, watching a funny comedy, or helping someone else. I really want to talk about that last one for a moment, helping someone else. I think a lot of people during this epidemic have been afraid to help others because we are of the social distancing, and I completely understand that. But let's not forget about the things that we can do for others that would be fulfilling to us, that do not require us to be within 10 feet of them. For example, giving a phone call to someone that you know is elderly and hasn't been able to get out of the house. Calling nursing homes and just offering words of encouragement to those individuals. You know, I'm sure you have plenty of friends or family that you can contact to check on, to offer an encouraging word to. Everybody has something that they can do to help others. And whenever we help others, it gives us this overall feeling of well-being for most people. So I would strongly encourage that. You know, maybe even writing a letter to someone or reaching out to someone that you haven't talked to in a long time. We have nothing but time right now, so I think now may be the time to call those individuals. Okay, also when you're thinking of things to distract yourself or things to do in general, you want to think about things that you've always wanted to do, but maybe just said, I don't have the time to do this. Try doing those things if you can, or maybe even think about the fact that things that you wanted to do when you were younger. Things that you used to like to do. Maybe you used to like to paint when you were in high school, but you haven't had time to do that in years. Now would probably be a good time to get that paintbrush out. You have no idea how much that could possibly provide distraction for you. Next slide. So I really want to strongly encourage you. I've touched on this a little bit throughout this presentation, but accessing your support. So, I mean, if you had a support group prior to COVID, and it's possible to go online and still be a part of that support group, I strongly encourage you to do that. Support groups, calling family or friends. I've discussed maybe even old friends. Also, use your moral compass or spiritual life for support. Maybe even your Bible study groups or your churches. You know, I think what's happening is everyone is sort of afraid of COVID-19, which is reasonable. But because of that, we're society in a way is sort of shutting and excluding themselves off from other people, maybe even important people. So remember, you know, we always want to keep that support system good and strong to ensure that we're healthy and that the people that we love are healthy by offering that support. If you're not a member of a support group, maybe now would be a good time to consider that. There are tons of support groups online, even grief support groups. If anyone has lost someone to COVID, these are extremely hard times. I know that you need that support, so I would strongly encourage support groups of any kind. I've got some resources at the end of this slideshow that tell you more about some of those support groups. Next slide. Recognizing warning signs. So The thing is everybody is very stressed out right now, I think, across the board, across the world. But how do we know when it's sort of going from not from a normal stress level to I'm starting to have symptoms of a mental illness? I think the main thing to do is continue to monitor yourself. If you start to notice that you're having symptoms of depression, monitor that, like how bad was it on a scale from 1 to 10 today, and monitor that to see if it continues to get worse and worse. That's one sign that you can use to sort of monitor your overall mental health. You can do that for the people that you love around you too. Keep a close eye on them. Have conversations about mental health. It's okay to say, I'm having a hard time dealing with constantly having to be inside. How are you dealing with this? Maybe even to someone in your own household, you may have that conversation with. Hoping that mental health problems such as anxiety or depression just sort of go away or disappear, that's not really a good route to take, because it can lead to the symptoms getting worse, and it can sometimes spiral out of control pretty quickly. So we want to be very careful to monitor those symptoms, as well as to know when it's time to reach out and get help. So if you're having concerns, or if you're experiencing worsening of mental health symptoms, ask for help when you need it and be upfront about how you're doing. I think that a lot of us don't want to admit when something is wrong or when we're having a hard time. But I would like to tell you, as a mental health professional, everyone is having a hard time right now, and that is okay. And if you need to ask for help, please do so. It is okay, it is warranted, and there are people that can help you. Next slide. So those people that can help you, these are some resources that I have. Here in Colorado, we have the Colorado Crisis Services that you can call 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can call them, or you can text them. You can text TALK to 38255, and these are trained mental health professionals on the other end that can talk to you about your fears or anxiety symptoms. They can also guide you on what steps to take next, as well as Jefferson Center. We are still doing intakes, and we are still taking in clients. So if you feel that you could benefit from mental health treatment, please feel free to call our main number or go on our website and check us out. We would love to see you. We would love to help you. Next slide. Links to additional helpful resources. These are just some of the sites that I got some of my information from, and you may find it beneficial to look at those as well to gain even more information and maybe some more helpful tips. Next slide. Additional resources. So I talked about the apps for fitness. On this list of resources, the first website that you see here gives you some of the best physical fitness apps to use. The next site gives you mindfulness apps that you can use. And the last site is to a YouTube. What I wanted to show here is that you can go in YouTube and simply put in the search meditation music, calming music, deep breathing exercises. All of these tools are at your fingertips if you have the internet. So I strongly encourage you to go on YouTube, go on Google, and type some of that in the search engines and see what you find. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Next. And that's all I have for today. Do we have any questions?
Angela, thank you for that presentation. If you have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box, and we can and we'll go ahead and ask them. So one that someone just messaged to me. How can I tell my loved ones that I'm concerned about their mental health?
Right, that's a great question. I think just being upfront and straightforward with each other, maybe even having a family meeting to where you check on each other once a week, or you go in a circle and talk about sort of how you've dealt with things that week. That way, the topic of mental health is not so taboo. It's something that you're talking about repeatedly in your home, and you're checking on each other repeatedly in your home.
Okay, that's good. Another question we're getting is, I'm working from home, but I'm having a hard time setting boundaries with work, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed with the amount of things that I have to do and all of the projects that are due at once. How can I set boundaries with my boss?
So I think that, being very clear on what exactly you feel that you can handle and you can do and you cannot. So, if you're finding that it's harder, that you're having to spend more hours with your child and taking care of school or things like that, and you don't have as much time to put into your job, you want to talk with your supervisor as well as your human resources about that. I think that right now, overall, all supervisors are sort of expecting there to be mishaps like that, to where you can't maybe do what you used to do as far as work or your workload. But the key is constant communication with your supervisor, with your human resources people. And I would just suggest to be completely upfront and to say, listen, I'm having a hard time making the same productivity with these new circumstances of working at home. And there's a lot of different creative things that you and your supervisor could possibly do. It may be changing work hours. So maybe it's not going to work for you to do your work during your normal business hours. Maybe after your child goes to sleep, it would be a more beneficial time. I think it all depends on the individual situation, and as well as what your agency is willing to work with you on. So really talking to your supervisors and human resources and just being upfront.
That's great advice. I feel, especially since everyone's dealing with this, and so hopefully we can you can open those lines of communication like that. Another question we have is, I have 2 young children, and I feel like I'm failing them with school, and also they're watching a lot more TV than I would ever allow them to on a regular day. How can I feel less guilty about how I'm parenting?
Oh, I would definitely say give yourself a break. And this is what we all have to remember. Now is not the time to expect perfection. It sort of goes back to the analogy that I gave at the beginning of the presentation about standing on one leg. If you're wobbling and you're not standing like you normally would, straight and tall, that's okay. Just the fact that you're able to stand on one leg is impressive enough. So you have to be willing to give yourself leeway. You have to be willing to understand that you're not going to be able to maybe monitor the television as closely as you used to, along with doing work from home, along with becoming a new school teacher for your children. That's a lot of change happening. So I think that as much as you can strive to do, to monitor that TV time as much as possible, it's not the end of the world if if they watch a few extra minutes of TV. So I think just really being lenient with yourself and understanding that you're not going to be perfect with everything, and that's okay.
Yeah, that giving yourself grace is so important right now. We have one final question. Um, could you give us some more examples of self-care? And also, do you have any advice for motivating yourself to do these things that I know are good for me?
Right. So, first of all, ways to motivate, sort of to do that question backwards, ways to motivate yourself to do self care. One is scheduling it and holding to that schedule. Meaning, if you block out from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'm going to read my favorite book, you need to set up your environment to ensure that the kids are in bed already. All the chores are taken care of so that I have that time to be able to sit and read that book when I intended to. So definitely scheduling those things. Excuse me. As well as um, scheduling things with other people. I think having a buddy to do things with, even like I was talking about the exercising, even if you exercise, but you call a friend to do exercises with you, even over the phone for 5-10 minutes. Sort of just having that other person to be accountable to can be very helpful. Another thing is in regards to holding yourself to do it, motivating yourself to do it, get your children involved. Oh goodness, I've realized over the past few weeks that, if I tell my daughter that we're going on a walk, she's going to make sure we go on that walk. Because she looks forward to it all day long. To be honest with you, I've forgotten about it by 12 o'clock, but having her there to sort of constantly remind me about that walk really helps. To back up and to answer your first question about additional tips on self-care, I think that self-care can look different for everybody, and it really starts with sort of trying to be in tune with yourself and what you want. Some days my self-care looks like an hour bubble bath. Another day, your self-care might look like you digging in the dirt and doing gardening. Getting outside more often to take a hike or to take a walk. That's some people's self-care. I think it really just comes down to, in regards to finding more ways to take care of yourself, is to think of anything that is good for you, that makes you feel joy, that makes you feel positivity. Continue to do those things. If there are things in your past that you did that really brought you joy, maybe even dancing, now's the time to do it. That's another example I want to give that someone told me the other day that I thought was great, that they heard a great song on the radio that they loved. So they called their friend real quick and said, hey, turn the radio on this channel. They both had the radio on blasting, and they both started dancing on other ends of the phone. So I thought that was a great way to really pick up your spirits and, just call a friend randomly and say, hey, let's just dance. Or put this song on. Let's dance until the song's over, and then we go back about our normal day. So I think just doing what makes you feel that joy.
Those are all such great ideas, and I love the idea of even doing, with the dancing, even, just taking a few minutes out of your day, to just take that moment for yourself and to, boost your mood. And so, Angela, thank you so much
You're welcome. Thank you.
for presenting today and giving us all of these tips on finding balance during COVID-19. I also want to again thank the Golden Rotary for sponsoring this presentation. And then I just want to remind everyone that Jefferson Center is here for you during this time. We are here with you every step of the way through the good times and the bad, and we are open and accepting new patients via telephone and telehealth appointments. And we've also adapted by developing innovative ways to provide remote care for both our new and existing clients. So if you have any questions or you need more help, you can visit our website at jcmh.org, or you can also reach us by calling 303-425-0300. And again, thank you all so much for attending today and learning how to balance yourself with during COVID-19. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.